Assalamu-alaikum students. This is Islamic Studies Department of Pakistan International School Qatar. Lecture number 9 for grade 6 week 9 chapter 2 Faith and Prayers. Topic is Hajj. Prepared by Mrs. Mumtaz Ismail.
Dear students, learning objectives of this topic are to know about Hajj in detail, background of Hajj, stages of Hajj, Ihram, Tawaf, Sa'i, stay at Mina and stay at Arafat. Approximately 4,000 years ago, the valley of Mecca was completely dry. No one lived amongst the sand dunes. God told the Prophet Ibrahim, may Allah be pleased with him, to bring his wife Hajira and son Ismail to Arabia from Palestine. On instructions from Allah, Ibrahim left Hajira and Ismail alone in the desert with some food and water. Their supplies quickly ran out and mother and son became dehydrated and very, very hungry. Hajira was desperate to find help, and she ran up and down the two hills of Safa and Marwa to try to spot someone in the distance. Exhausted, she lay down beside her son and prayed for deliverance. An angel descended from heaven, and struck the ground with his wing. A spring of water burst forth and Hajira and Ismail rejoiced. They had a water supply to drink from and used to trade with passing nomads. Now they could exchange water for food and other goods. When Ibrahim returned to check on his family, he was absolutely amazed to see them making money from a well. Hajj literally means to set out for a place. Islamically, however, it refers to the annual pilgrimage that Muslims make to Mecca with the intention of performing certain religious rites in accordance with the method prescribed by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Hajj and its rites were first ordained by Allah in the time of the Prophet Ibrahim, may Allah be pleased with him, and he was the one who was entrusted by Allah to build the Kaaba, the house of Allah, along with his son Ismail, may Allah be pleased with him, at Mecca. After building the Kaaba, Prophet Ibrahim would come to Mecca to perform Hajj every year, and after his death, this practice was continued by his son. However, gradually with the passage of time, both the form and the goal of the Hajj rites were changed. As idolatry spread throughout Arabia, the Kaaba lost its purity and idols were placed inside it. Its walls became covered with poems and paintings, including 360 idols came to be placed around the Kaaba. During the Hajj period itself, the atmosphere around the sacred boundaries of the Kaaba was like a circus. Men and women would go round the Kaaba naked, arguing that they should present themselves before Allah in the same condition they were born.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك.
The first stage of Hajj is entering Makkah from any one of the specified points termed Miqat, on the 8th of Zihijjah. The pilgrim declares the intention of performing Hajj. He then puts on ihram, which consists of 2 sheets of unsewn cloth, generally of white cotton. One is tied around the waist to cover the lower body and legs, and the other is thrown over the shoulders to cover the upper part of the body. The head is left uncovered. Women have no special dress, they can wear suitable clothes to cover themselves decently. The ihram removes the difference between rich and poor, black and white, as all human beings are the same and equal in the eyes of Allah's sight. As long as the pilgrims are in ihram, with the intention of performing the Hajj, they are required to behave and act with patience, dignity and humility, and a spirit of sacrifice.
Tawaf is one of the principal rites of the pilgrimage and refers to circumambulating or walking in circles around the Kaaba in an anti-clockwise motion. 7 complete circuits, with each one starting and ending at the Hajar al-Aswad, constitute one Tawaf. The circumambulation of the Kaaba is a continuous act of worship, 24 hours a day throughout the year. It does not cease, except for a few minutes during the 5 daily prescribed prayers. This act of tawaf affirms the worship of one God, just as every orbit has one center. There is only one God worthy of worship, the Hajar al-Aswad, the black stone, which is set in the eastern corner of the Kaaba. Tawaf begins and ends facing this sacred stone. Throughout the ages, countless people including many of the prophets, upon them be peace, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself, the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them, pious personalities and millions of Muslims who have performed Hajj and Umrah have placed their blessed lips on it. When the Quraysh demolished the holy Kaaba in order to reconstruct it, a dispute rose when the building reached the level of the black stone. They differed on the issue of who was eligible to restore the black stone to its original place. A civil war was about to break out. Banu Abduddah brought a bowl full of blood and all of the tribes inserted their hands in it, which meant that they had made up their minds to fight one another. But Abu Umayya ibn al-Mughira, their elder, asked Quraysh to agree on the judgment of the first person to come through the Bani Shayba gate, and they all agreed on this suggestion. The first to come through this gate was the Prophet, peace be upon him. This was 5 years before his mission. He put the black stone in the middle of a piece of cloth, and asked a representative of each tribe to hold one of the edges of the cloth and raise it close to its place. Then the Prophet, peace be upon him, picked it up with his own noble hands and restored it to its original place. This was how the Prophet, peace be upon him, prevented a war from breaking out among the Quraysh by a supreme demonstration of wisdom. Sa'i means walking from Safa to Marwa and back 7 times. Thus the walk begins at Safa and ends at Marwa. Starting from Safa one should walk to Marwa, and this constitutes one walk. From Marwa back to Safa the second, and so on up to 7 walks, finally ending at Marwa. It is the 4th compulsory act of the Hajj and Umrah. If it is omitted intentionally, it causes the Hajj to become void, regardless of whether one knows this rule or not. Sa'i must be performed after Tawaf and its prayers. During Sa'i it is necessary to face the direction one is going towards, else it becomes invalid. But there is no harm in turning a bit on either side. Sa'i and its prayer must not be delayed after Tawaf without a valid reason. Nevertheless, in case of severe heat or tiredness, it can be postponed till nightfall, but not until the next day. In general, the rule of doubts about the number of movements of Sa'i is the same as those of the circles of walking around the Kaaba, that is, a doubt about its number tenders it invalid and has to be performed again. The pilgrim next goes to Mina, which is about 6 kilometers from Mecca. All pilgrims must be there before Zuhr and stay there for the night, which is spent in prayer. Mina is located 6 kilometers to the east of Mecca, covering a 16.8 kilometer area starting from Mecca's city center to Muzdalifah. It is known as the tent city.
The word Arafat is derived from the Arabic verb arafa, which means to know or to recognize. Arafat is a large open ground about 14 kilometers from Makkah. The pilgrims enter Arafat on the 9th of Zil-Hajjah and stay there for Zuhr and Asr prayers and leave just after sunset. This stay is compulsory, as without it the Hajj is incomplete. On the 2nd day of Hajj, known as Yawm al-Arafat, the day of Arafat, or Yawm al-Wuqf, the day of standing, pilgrims to travel to the plain of Arafat, where they combine Har and Asr prayers and engage in Wuqf, the most solemn rite of the Hajj.
I have explained the topic briefly. Now write the answer of all the question in your notebooks.